Are you looking for a new main dish to prepare that's packed full of flavor but super easy? Stick with me. I've got just what you want. We're going to make a pork tenderloin today, and you're not going to want to miss it. Hi, I'm Katherine, and welcome to my table. I'm so glad you're with me today. We're going to make one of our family's favorite dishes. This is an entree that you can prepare in just a short amount of time, and it's going to be so flavorful. Okay, part of what makes this dish so easy is that we're going to put our marinade straight into a Ziploc bag and then add our pork tenderloin. We're not even going to mess up a bowl. So let's get started doing that now. We're going to take half a cup of olive oil, and like I said, we're just going to dump it straight into our bag. About a third of a cup of soy sauce, fourth of a cup of red wine vinegar. We're going to take some lemon juice. You can use a fresh lemon if you want, and that's all you need is about one lemon and squeeze the juice out of it. But I have used this so many times in this recipe, and the juice in the bottle that you keep in your fridge is just perfect for this. It will be so good. So we're going to use about the equivalent of one juice of lemon, so probably a couple of tablespoons. I'm just going to measure that kind of straight over my bag. Doesn't have to be exact. This is a very forgiving marinade. So if something's a little off, you're still going to get plenty of flavor, and it's going to be delicious. Then we're going to add a couple of tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. And you want about the equivalent of 4 cloves of garlic, but I'm going to use the squeezed garlic. So I'm just going to kind of squeeze a couple good squirts in there, and that'll give us our garlic. You want 1 to 2 tablespoons of parsley, and I don't even measure this. I just kind of sprinkle it in. And then we want about a half a teaspoon of black pepper. There's about that. And then you want about 2 teaspoons of the dry mustard. And that's it. That's all we do for our marinade. So I'm just kind of squeeze it around, and all those flavors are going to blend right here in the bag. And that's perfect. That's really all you need to do. I'm going to take my pork tenderloin, and I'm just going to put it directly into the bag with the marinade. And then I'm just going to move it around just so that marinade, all those good juices get all over the pork. And then you want to stick this in your refrigerator for at least a couple of hours. Now you can do it way ahead of time. If it sits in there all day long, that is perfectly fine. It's not going to hurt anything. So you can even do it the day ahead of time. You can do it the morning of before you go to work. Then when you get home, it's really quick and easy to cook it. But at least 2 hours, you want to put it in your fridge. All right, it's almost time to get our pork tenderloin cooked. But before we do, I'm going to start some veggies that I'm going to roast in the oven. And I'm going to do those first because I'm going to do them at a very high temperature, higher than I want to cook the pork tenderloin. And the reason for that is we're going to do some roasted green beans and tomatoes. The tomatoes don't take very long. We'll add them at the end. But the green beans are frozen. And since they are not fresh, I want to cook them at a higher temperature. I'm going to do them at 450 degrees because you're going to have just more moisture in them since they're frozen. And we want that moisture to come out of them quickly when we put them in the oven. So we do not want mushy green beans. So what I'm going to do, I've already sprayed. I've got a foil-lined pan here, and I've got it sprayed. And I have my oven already preheated. I'm going to put this pan in the hot oven so that the pan will also be hot as soon as we put the veggies on them. That's going to help with that moisture issue. So I'm going to let the pan get hot while we get the green beans ready. We're going to do Parmesan, garlic, roasted green beans, and tomatoes today. And so I have a 1.5 pound bag of green beans, and I'm only going to do about half of it today for us. So you can adjust the recipe if you want to do the whole bag. I'm going to do about that much. It's maybe about half. So we're going to drizzle just enough olive oil on it to coat them pretty well. It's probably, 2 to 3 tablespoons maybe. I've got the grated Parmesan cheese, probably 3 tablespoons of this. And I'm just going to shake it until it kind of looks like it's coated pretty well at the top. And then we do want to salt and pepper to taste.
Okay.
And then we're going to take some garlic powder. And we're just going to sprinkle maybe a teaspoon or so. We're just going to kind of give it a quick stir so that all the seasonings and the Parmesan cheese and the olive oil kind of coat all throughout. I think that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to set this bowl aside. And I'm going to go ahead and get the tomatoes ready, although we won't add them right away onto our pan because the tomatoes really only take maybe 5 to 10 minutes to roast in the oven. And I don't want them to be over roasted. So we will do the green beans for a few minutes and then we'll pop those tomatoes on the pan with them too and let them finish up for those last few minutes. Just drizzle a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of salt. Don't need a whole lot of salt on these tomatoes. Just going to do a quick sprinkle of Parmesan, maybe not quite as much on the tomatoes. Just a pinch of the garlic. And I'm just going to stir those up and they'll be ready. Okay, I'll set that aside. Okay, I think our pan's hot enough. I'm going to get it out.
This.
And all we're going to do... Oh, you can hear it sizzle. That's good. That's why you want it that hot. That's going to take care of that moisture and keep our green beans that are frozen from being too mushy. Okay, let's pop them back in. Okay, I'm going to let these go about 7 minutes, and then I'm going to stop it and add the tomatoes. Oh, yes, looks like they're cooking good. Right. Get it back in quickly. And now I'm going to set it for about 8 minutes, and I think they're both going to be done together at about the same time. Time to cook our pork tenderloin. Actually, let it marinate overnight, which is just fine. This does great. Like I told you, it needs at least 2 hours, but overnight is fine too. So that's what I ended up doing. So I've got my skillet hot, and I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of olive oil in there. You don't need a lot. There you go. A little drizzle. And then I'm going to open my bag and take my pork tenderloin out. And we're just going to give it a good sear in our skillet here. Let it go 2 or 3 minutes on each side. And that'll give it the good sear that you want. Oh yeah, that's what you want right there. Just let it do the other side. Yep. I'm going to kind of just hold it up on the end a little bit. Let it do for a minute or so there. All right, it's time to take our veggies out. All right, that looks good. Starting to get just a little bit of char. That's what you want right there. That looks like it's done pretty well. I'm going to pull this up. I'm just going to put it on my pan. And I've lined my pan with foil just to kind of help save some cleanup. And we're going to put it in a 350-degree oven. And it needs to go for about 35 to 40 minutes, depending on how thick you think your tenderloin is. Okay, now while our pork tenderloin is in the oven, we're going to make a pan sauce that is going to be so good. And it's going to use some of the juices from our marinade. And you're going to see how we do that. But the first thing we do is we just take the same skillet that we just used to sear the pork. We're going to pour in about a half a cup of chicken broth. And you can use whatever kind of chicken broth you want. You can use it out of the can. You can use the bouillon cubes. You can use the paste, whatever. Okay, and just let that kind of help clear our pan off. Then we're going to take about 1/4 of a cup of the marinade. And we're going to put it directly into this sauce in the pan. That's going to give even more flavor there. That wasn't quite 1/4 of a cup. I'm going to get just a smidge more. You just want to let this cook down for about 3 minutes. Stir it just a little bit, but you do not have to stir it the whole time. Okay, I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to take it off the eye. And then just the final step is to add about 2 tablespoons of butter. The aroma that comes from adding that marinade to this sauce while the meat is cooking, it just smells so good. Okay, now we're just going to set it aside and we'll warm it up just at the last minute before we put it on the meat once we've sliced it. Our pork tenderloin is ready and it smells delicious. Let's take it out of the oven. Oh, that looks perfect. Okay, we need to let it rest 5 minutes before we cut it. So while it's resting, here's what I'm going to do. We've got our veggies all ready, but we want to just heat them back up. I've turned the oven off, but I'm just going to pop them in while the meat rests, which will just warm them up again. And I've also just warmed up our pan sauce again, brought it to just a quick little boil and turned it off so that everything will be warm and fresh together. Our pork tenderloin has been resting for 5 minutes, so it's time to slice it now. That end looks good. It's so tender and juicy. And you can slice it however thin or however thick you want. I like mine probably about a 1/2 inch thick, maybe. It's just almost like butter the way it slices through. Okay, I've got it sliced up and on our platter. And then I'm just going to place some of the green beans and the tomatoes around it. It's going to make a really pretty dish too. If you were having company, this would be so pretty to serve at your table tonight. Okay, I've got it plated and I'm going to pour some sauce over it. If you're serving this on the platter at your table, you could go ahead and put the sauce over it on the platter as well. But I'm just going to kind of do it like this. And I cooked a little bit of rice tonight to go with it. You could have potatoes too, but it's a wonderful way to serve it with something under the pork tenderloin, and then it just kind of soaks in that sauce, the potatoes or rice, whatever you put under it. See how tender that is? I only needed my fork to get my bite. Okay, let's taste it now. A bit of that juice with it, that sauce we made. It really is so full of flavor. It's delicious. Let's try the veggies. A little bit of green bean, a little bit of tomato. That brings a brightness to everything. This is a great dish. I love this combination. I hope you'll like it too. Make it for your family. Let me know how you like it. Leave a comment. Hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. I'm so glad you joined me today at Mary Catherine's table. Thank you for being with me. And remember, find someone who needs a little bit of kindness today and give them some of yours.